Jenaro Pérez Villaamil's interior of a cathedral stands as one of the most eloquent manifestations of the Romantic fascination with architecture and the sublime. At first glance, it appears to depict a faithful rendering of a grand ecclesiastical space, a monumental Gothic cathedral illuminated by shafts of mystical light. Yet, closer examination reveals that Perez was not recording a real interior but inventing one. The cathedral he paints is a visionary synthesis, a space born from memory, observation, and imagination. It is a cathedral that could never have existed, but which encapsulates the spiritual and aesthetic ideals of 19th century Romanticism. During the early to mid 19th century, European Romanticism redefined the relationship between the visible world and the imagination. Artists sought to move beyond the literal toward what Edmund Burke and Immanuel Kant had described as the sublime, that sensation of awe, wonder, and even terror that arises before something vastly greater than oneself. For Perez, who traveled throughout Spain studying medieval architecture, the Gothic cathedral offered the perfect vehicle for expressing this sublime experience. Its soaring verticals, dim recesses, and play of shadow and light embodied both faith and the immensity of human aspiration. In interior of a cathedral, the viewer's eye is immediately drawn upward, along the slender, clustered columns toward the ribbed vaults that seem to dissolve into light. The human figures below are rendered minute, almost incidental, dwarfed by the architectural grandeur that engulfs them. The perspective recedes in rhythmic bays, creating an illusion of infinite depth. The entire space becomes a metaphor for transcendence, an ascent from the earthly to the divine. Although Perez Villaamil trained as an architectural draftsman and traveled extensively to document Spain's monuments, the cathedral he depicts here is not a transcription of any real building. Rather, it is a composite of forms derived from numerous Gothic and late Gothic churches. The vertical structure of the nave, the pointed arches, and the radiating vaults recall the cathedrals of Burgos, Leon, or Seville, yet the composition exceeds their proportions and plausibility. The columns are impossibly slender, their capitals and shafts enveloped in tracery so intricate that the stone appears almost weightless. The arches soar to impossible heights, and the recession of space seems infinite. This manipulation of architectural form was deliberate. Perez uses the language of architecture not as a documentation but as drama. His building is designed for emotional effect. The impossibility of the structure, its exaggerated height, its luminous atmosphere, its endless ornament, intensifies the sense of awe. It is architecture as revelation. The building becomes an embodiment of faith rather than its container. The painter's attention to sculptural detail reinforces this sense of sacred vitality in Gothic architecture. Sculpture often narrates scripture or moral allegory. In Perez's cathedral, however, the sculptural program transcends storytelling. Figures of saints, angels, and prophets appear everywhere, emerging from niches, climbing columns, adorning balustrades, and lining the choir screens. Yet, they are not individualized portraits. Instead, they form part of the architectural organism itself. The sculptures appear to grow out of the stone rather than being placed upon it, fusing structure and ornament into a single living fabric. This effect transforms the cathedral into a kind of spiritual body animated by faith. The light, filtering softly from clerestory windows, strikes the carvings unevenly, leaving some in shadow and others illuminated in a golden haze. The interplay of light and relief gives the impression that the sacred itself moves through the building. The divinity circulates through its veins of stone. Despite architectural precision, interior of a cathedral is ultimately a fiction. Perez's approach was shaped by his travels across Spain and his knowledge of historical architecture, but in his studio he combined, altered, and exaggerated what he had seen. Contemporary critics noted that his interiors often surpassed real cathedrals in scale and ornament. The impossibly attenuated columns, the density of details, and the idealized symmetry all point to a space imagined rather than observed. This imaginative freedom distinguishes Perez from earlier architectural painters, while Schinkel in Germany or Friedrich in the north might use ruins to evoke melancholy. Perez constructs a perfect, intact cathedral, one untouched by decay or history. It exists outside time, a monument to the ideal of faith rather than to faith's material remnants. It exists outside time, a monument to the ideal of faith rather to faith's material remnants. The artist therefore participates in a quintessentially romantic project, the creation of an image more real in spirit than in fact. Light in this painting is more than a natural phenomenon. It is the visual language of the divine. It pierces through the high windows, dissolving the upper vaults in luminosity while leaving the lower aisles in shadow. This contrast between brilliance and obscurity heightens the drama and underscores the theological metaphor of enlightenment and mystery. The entire composition is organized around this vertical movement, from the dark ground of the nave to the radiant heavens above. In this sense, Perez's cathedral interior embodies the romantic sublime. It simultaneously invites and overwhelms the viewer. The space is so vast and luminous that one experiences both admiration and insignificance. It is not meant to be believable, but to be felt. Jenaro Pérez's interior of a cathedral represents one of the great romantic meditations on architecture, imagination, and the sacred. The artist fuses meticulous architectural draftsmanship with visionary invention, transforming the Gothic church into a symbol of spiritual yearning. His columns defy gravity, his sculptures seem to breathe, and his light evokes revelation. The result is a space that exists only in the mind, an ideal cathedral that embodies the human longing for transcendence. The painting's enduring power lies precisely in its impossibility, because such a cathedral could never stand in stone. It remains eternally whole in imagination. Perez's vision reminds us that art can build what architecture cannot, a structure made not of masonry but of wonder.